All right, so hope everyone is doing well at the moment and staying safe at home during this whole outbreak bit. So today, very fortunate to have Miss Anna Hopkin joining me for a bit of a chat. Um, I was very fortunate to work with Anna quite a few years ago now, and she's come along just to talk about her journey in the sport so far and a little bit about how she prepares. So I guess Anna, I'll go straight in there just to kind of ask you a little bit about your journey in the sport. Where did it all start, and I guess where did it start? And I know from experience, where did it all start again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I guess my journey's been a little unconventional because I was like quite a good age group swimmer, and from 11 to 13 I went to like age group nationals. I won my first national medal when I was 11 in the 100 fly. I came third. And then I was still doing well like 12 and 13, but I didn't get any more medals, and I was kind of losing the love of the sport, and I was finding it quite hard, like finding the motivation to train, and I wanted to do other sports. And so I did actually stop swimming at 13, and I was still like ticking over a little bit. I was swimming like twice a week, but I was doing like 4 or 5 other sports, which looking back probably actually helped me a lot because I maintained a lot of fitness and strength. I was doing gymnastics, so a lot of strength and flexibility and all like your key things you need for swimming, like core strength and everything. That was kind of all maintained, and I did a lot of running, so my cardio was still kind of going as well. But it wasn't till I was 17 when I started to get back into swimming competitively again. So on my rankings, there's like a 5-year gap where I have no times.
Mm.
But then I did a college competition. It's like British colleges, which was at Bath actually. And I did the 50 fly, and I actually missed my race. I went up and I thought, like I said to them, I think I'm up next. Is that right? It wasn't very well organized. And they said, oh no, you've got ages. And then I realized I saw my heat lining up, and it was too late, and so they let me go in on the boys' heat because they felt bad for me. And I think because I really wanted to beat all the guys, so I ended up doing a time that would have qualified me for that year's British champs, but I was too late to qualify. It was like a week before it or something, and so I kind of thought, oh well, maybe I should give this a go again. And so I did a few more competitions, and I got in touch with. That's when I was about to start at Bath University. Got in touch with Mark Skimming, and kind of told him a bit about myself, and that I hadn't got many times, but I really wanted to join the squad and things. So he was really great at letting me join the team, and that was around the time that the pool closed. So that was another kind of we were told we had to train like, was it like 5 till 6:30 every morning? I can't remember now.
Yeah,
It
we were
was,
doing. I think your group, you were doing 3 or 4 mornings straight of something like 5 a.m. until 6:30 or
yeah,
something like that.
that is just brutal. And I hadn't done that in like 5, 6 years. I hadn't got up that early. So I actually emailed Mark and I just said, I think I'm going to leave it until the pool's back open again. I'll just join rec squad. I just don't think I can jump from nothing to everything in one go. And then he let me do 2 mornings and a Saturday evening for the first sort of 6 months I was at Bath, which was, I think that kind of really made sort of my progression, because I don't think I would have mentally been able to get back into it if I'd had to do 5 mornings a week. So but that's when Chris started coaching me, and I was in sprint group because we were completely separate, sprint and distance really. And that was like first 6 months, and I think I don't really remember what my times were at that point, but I made finals at British Champs that year, my first year at Bath. And then the second year at Bath, I think I came, that was when I came second.
Second, yeah, because
Yeah.
off the top of my head, I think I'm probably completely wrong with this, but I think when the first race you did was something like 27.5, I want to say, in the 53,
Yeah.
and then when
I came
you
into uni with a 27.4.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
the next season you did, I think, a book short course, you broke 25 for the 53, I think.
Yeah.
And
That sounds
then
about right.
At the long course, it was about 25 mid, and then obviously you went to trials and then came second. So it was a quite
Yeah,
big progression over about a year or so.
yeah. Everyone was a bit. They weren't quite sure how I was doing 3 sessions a week and progressing so quickly. But because I'd gone from 0 to 3, that's actually quite a big jump, really. Um, so I guess that's how. And then from then on, I was like increasing my sessions, went up to 5, and then to 7, and then to 9. And so it was like, although it was a fast progression, I didn't feel like I was like thrown in at the deep end. It was very like gently kind of progressing me through and getting me back into the sport and like making me love it again and enjoy training and things. And then in my 3rd year, I went to Ealing Swimming Club because I was on placement in Ealing. And that's the year I won British Champs and qualified for the World University Games. So that was my first team. And then I had one more year in Bath and I qualified for the Commonwealth Games and the Europeans. And then that's when I started. So when I was at Ealing, I got in contact with Neil, or he got in contact with me, who is the coach over in Arkansas in America, which is where I've been for the last 2 years. And so he just asked if I wanted to go out and I could do a master's and swim out there and be on a scholarship. So all the support and everything was funded, which was obviously ideal for me. And so that's where I've been for kind of the past, year and a half until I've had to fly back because of coronavirus. So, but yeah, since then I've obviously made the world's team last year and came 7th in the 50 free and 13th in the 100 free. And then I went to European short course December just gone, and came 4th in the 100 free and I think 6th in the 50 free. So still yet to get an international medal individual, but hopefully that's coming.
It's starting to get there, that's for sure. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, for me, I like I say, I was fortunate to be able to work with you for a period of time. You know, when I was coaching with Mark, and when you look at the way where you've actually managed to come from, it's great to have seen someone who, from what you say, fell out of love with the sport, came back to it again, and has actually seen a real great long-term, I guess, progression. Much later in what one would kind of look at as a career than what most people kind of see the general path as being. Like you say, you left it, and I think it's a great kind of advertisement for, while it's not the same for everybody, not everyone can leave and come back and still progress. Everyone develops at their own rates and kind of comes around to loving something, I guess, in their own time, and you should never write people off. I think if you've got a talent for it and you've got a passion and a drive to do the sport and enjoy what you do, and I know that you do enjoy what you do, you shouldn't put limits on how long it takes or how old you are. So
yeah, and I think like if you're good at 11, that's great, but you've still got a long time before you're going to start making senior teams, and so even if it's a slow progression, that's okay. Like if you're good at 11 and then you have like a slow progression and you peak at like 18 to 20 or whatever, then that's what you want, really. You don't want to kind of throw everything at it at such a young age and then have nothing left to kind of keep going. So yeah, I think once I got back into it, it was just like had a lot of support that wasn't needing me to like do too much too soon. I think that was the key for me.
No, I think that's a great way of looking at it. I mean, obviously, from at the time, I think I can probably speak for Mark as well. That you're right. We didn't expect you to go and do X, Y, and Z. We would have said, well, this is a girl who's just decided that this is something she wants to try again. So we've got to be kind about it. You've got to be gentle and kind and progress that. It wasn't just you that you were a good example of kind of almost the extreme of it, I guess. But that was something I know I learned quite a lot about at the time, and you taught me an awful lot about that. That you do have to look at individuals in a very clear and broad sense, and it's not just about, are they performing here and now? It's like, well, what could they be? And it was very, very fun and fascinating, I have to say, over the couple of years, like watching people be very shocked by what you were able to do and very perplexed by it when actually watching you on a daily basis. Um, just seeing how professional you were, I think that was kind of, that's always the thing I've really taken away from what I saw in you, that you were very professional and very process driven, and you understood what you were doing and when you were doing it and why you were doing it, and it was very routine, if that makes sense. So I mean, I guess in a minute it'd be interesting to find out if that's still how you approach it. I mean, so how was the transition for you to America? Obviously, quite a big cultural change and way of doing things. I mean, not many of my swimmers may not know too much about the American system or how it works. What was it actually like for you, and how was it racing at NCAA level?
Yeah, it's very different over there to here. Um, I mean, I didn't know anything really about the American system um, before pretty much going there, because I mean, I was fortunate that when I was at Ealing, one of the coaches I had then, he was like really good friends with Neil, who was my head coach in America. So that was how the connection happened. And I don't know if I would have ever even thought of America if someone didn't directly approach me. So, and I guess I knew once I came to the end of being at Bath, I wasn't quite sure where I could go because I wasn't good enough to be on funding, and so I was going to have to self-fund. And obviously, doing that in England can be quite expensive if you're having to rent and like travel and pay for training and everything. And so it really did seem like a good option for me because they were kind of going to give me all the support I needed. Um, and obviously I could also still study there. So and when I went out there, it was like, I mean, the culture is very American, obviously, like very over the top, and you have all your chants and your cheers, and but that kind of, it just brings a lot more to the atmosphere. And we were doing, you have all these dual meets against, so like our college against another college, and they either come to you or you go to them, and it's just 1v1. And so you end up kind of racing every other week, sometimes like 3 weeks in a row, and sometimes you'll have teams that are quite easy to beat, and other times, like we went against Stanford last year, so that was kind of a very, very difficult team, but an amazing experience. Like we got to go and race them in California, and we went and did a little day trip around San Francisco. So it was really, really fun, and we got to travel a lot and go against different teams. And then like racing at the SECs and NCAAs is absolutely like insane. Like it's so loud, and there's so many teams, and every team is kind of has their chant, and they're trying to be louder than the next team. And whenever your person is in a final or whatever, like everyone's pushing their way to be right next to the pool side, like next to the pool, so they can like be louder than the other team. So it's really, really exciting, and I definitely got a lot from it. And I think, I mean, I've obviously improved a lot since I've been there, and I think that's just because I've raced so much and learned so much from every race I've done that I kind of, yeah, I just learned a lot in the last 18 months. So it was definitely good for me.
Absolutely, and I mean, must have been some pretty big fields that you'll have been going against at some stage, and you know, even I guess in dual meets, there's some pretty major competition. I think there was one point, I'm not sure about a female 100 free, but I think it was male 100 free. I want to say it was for 2016 at their trials, something like the top 35 in America at their American trials were faster than our fastest 100 freestyler at the time. I think
Yeah, they have so much depth.
yeah, it's insane, and obviously I think the college system probably plays quite a big part in that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like more common for swimmers to go through college. Like obviously in England, not everyone necessarily goes to university because there's no real, I mean, obviously there's an academic benefit to going to university, but in terms of like scholarships and things, there's not necessarily a huge benefit to be swimming at university versus swimming, just swimming. Whereas if you go to college in America and get scholarships and things, then like you're able to, there is a huge benefit to being a college athlete versus just a professional athlete if you're not kind of at the very top level where you're earning a lot of money. And so like, unfortunately, I never actually got to race Simone in college because that would have been a lot of fun. She graduated I think the year before I started, but I still got to race her at like US Open and other long course meets, which was like really good for me. But then I had obviously had like Abby Weitzel and Mallory Comerford and Erica Brown, who are people that I'm sure I'll be racing against internationally in the next year or 2 years or whatever. So it's like I am racing against some really, really hard competition. And even in dual meets, you kind of have to be on top of your game. And even if you're not feeling great, you have to give it, or you have to do the best you can, and you have to like get the points and beat whoever's next to you. So that was good for like having a very like race-based mentality, just like get beating whoever's next to you, no matter who they are or how bad you feel or whatever.
Well, I can imagine it totally teaches you how to step up on the day, you know, and it kind of, I guess, you know, leading into some of the things I'll talk about in a second, you know, how to prepare well and to be always ready to give your absolute best. I'm sure that there were some pretty big rousing speeches before training sets and sessions in racing over there as well.
Yeah, Neil's he loves his like, I mean, he's British. He was on the he's been on the British Olympic team twice, but he went to college in the States and since like just stayed out there and became a coach and lives out there. So he's like, to me, he has an American accent and he's kind of he seems very American to me now. He's like kind of loves his like motivational speeches, but that's great for me because he just instills confidence in you. If you have like a lack of confidence, you just need to be around him for a little while and he'll boost you up. So there's definitely a lot of kind of motivation, and they also rely on like everyone within the team has to motivate each other and be positive, and if anyone's bringing anyone down, obviously that gets like picked up very quickly and kind of no one's about that, and it is a good atmosphere to be training in.
Excellent. And how did you manage that with obviously doing your masters as well, because obviously that's part of the whole thing. Correct me, hopefully I'm not wrong. Is it kinesthesiology you did it in? Is that right?
Yeah, kinesiology.
There we go.
I mean, it's just exercise science. Like, I guess that's what they call it in America, but it was like, we would call it exercise science really. But I'd say it was actually more manageable there than it was at Bath. Obviously I'd had like 3 years studying at Bath and then a year placement where I'd been like pretty full on with uni work or like placement work. So I actually felt like I had more time in terms of like the class load I had. So, and because I'd already had experience like as an undergrad doing it, it didn't feel like too much of a step up. But also they have, like, we had a team room there, which was just like a room with a TV and sofas, and you had snacks and stuff like that in there, and that was just for swimming and diving. And so even if I had like 20 minutes between classes, I'd just go and take a power nap or something. And so that's something I could never do at Bath because there wasn't really, like, you can't go take a nap in the library really. I mean, you could, but it's not in the same way. I'm sure many people do, but it's not the same, like, you can fully relax. So I think that aspect definitely helped a lot, just having somewhere on campus to go that you can actually just relax and chill out for, even if you've only got 20-30 minutes. So I think that was definitely like very helpful for me being out there.
Awesome. So I guess, you know, moving forward a little bit here. So I've already said before we started the video here that I've been talking with our team about mental and physical and emotional prep for competition. I just want to get a little bit of an insight. I mean, especially considering you've been on the international stage a few times now as well. You know, what does a typical kind of race day look like? And, in terms of preparation for those, high level meets like Commonwealth Games, World, Europeans, what does the lead in look like? And then, what is essentially a typical day as far as your preparation goes?
So like in the lead, say for example, Worlds, we had like a 10-day period where we were in Tokyo, and that was kind of that was nice because it was a more relaxed and you were away from the competition venue, and we were still like doing bits of hard training and things. And then when we actually traveled to South Korea, that was kind of when your mentality has to switch a little bit, because that was sort of like 4 or 5 days leading into the competition. So you're obviously getting a feel for the competition pool. I think that's really important when you go into a new pool to kind of work out like where the tee is, what the walls are like, the amount of different pads that you're not used to. That's all kind of things, the blocks as well, all things that you need to kind of prepare for, because when you dive in, you don't want something to happen that you're not expecting. And also, like for me, I guess I swam in pools where there was like a camera running up and down.
I was about to say that was,
Yeah.
for me, I remember that happening for the first time, and it didn't throw me off, but it was very strange having it moving around.
Yeah, because I think maybe I just hadn't been in a lane where I was directly over it before, but at Worlds, I think I was for some reason. I just seemed to notice it more, but I was kind of aware of it in warm up. Maybe it was bigger, I don't know. I was just aware of it more in warm up and stuff. So that was kind of something I was like, okay, remember, like if you see the camera moving, it's fine. Just don't like let it bother you. So there's, yeah, just little things like that, and like prepare, like knowing where the call room is. If you have to be in the call room a certain amount of time before you race, like how long, even something like how long does it take you to walk there, because that's something you need to take into account, like, or where the changing rooms are, and that's all stuff you have to take into account with your timing and stuff. It's just how long everything takes. So making sure you kind of do a run through almost and prepare for everything that you're going to have on race day. And then so for my race day, I tend to like, some people prefer just like, they don't like to talk to anyone, or they just like to listen to their music and just kind of block everything else out. But I quite like to just not think too much about the race and kind of distract myself with talking to other people, or like talking to the coaches, or whatever's going on poolside or whatever. So, but if you are one of the people that likes to kind of block everything out, it's important to tell other people that, because you don't want someone, when you're trying to like be in the zone or whatever, you don't want someone coming up and like tapping you on your shoulder or distracting you or whatever. So that's also important. And then I always have my timeline worked out. So I usually get to the pool about an hour and 45 before I race. And then I guess I like chill out for like 15 minutes, and then stretch for about 25 minutes, and then get in the pool for like 40 minutes. And then I make sure I have at least half an hour to get my suit on, maybe more if I need to be in the call room 20 minutes before the race. But I think working backwards from what time your race is, how much time do you need to be in the call room, what time do you need your suit on, and just working back and then figuring out when you need to get to the pool is really important, because you don't want to be stressing about the race and then also stressing about the fact that you're running late, or you're not at the pool on time and your preparation's not how you want it to be. So I think that's very important for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of details there, and I think, from my point of view, from a coaching side, is, absolutely, you want to take as much stress out of there as you can. And I think what you said about the run through is great, because you do need to kind of get a feel for everything. So when you turn up on race day, it's not all fresh and brand new. But I know from my perspective, I'll definitely say you don't want to be the opposite either, where you turn up 4 hours before you swim and you're sitting around needlessly, because that's just going to get you stressed. Generally, you're going to start thinking too much about it, and it's just going to start getting in your head. And Good point as well with, obviously understanding, in your team and things like that as well, who prepares in what way, so you're not stepping on their toes and they're not going to step on your toes. I mean, here's an interesting thought that I had as well. So obviously you've got your kind of way. Have you ever had anyone try and come into your little bubble and try and get you to do something different, or maybe another competitor who's kind of gone, you know what, I'm going to try and get in her head a little bit here?
I haven't really. I know that because like at Worlds, I guess because I was like, I'm quite new in terms of, you have your usual like 50 and 100 free finalists who all know each other, like Showstrom and the Campbell sisters and Renomi and Simone, and like, I mean, some of them like I noticed they were talking to each other in the call room and things, and I mean, I don't really know them very well because I'm quite new to the scene and everything. So I was kind of just like chilling on my own in the back, which is fine by me because I was just like doing my own thing. But also like Renomi spoke to me a little bit at one point, which was also fine because I don't really feel like I need to kind of block everyone out totally. And I don't listen to music really in the call room either because I don't know, I kind of, sometimes that makes me overthink because like that's all, it's just me in my head. So I'd rather kind of hear things that are going on around me. And but then I noticed that like Simone kind of sits on her own with her headphones on and like doesn't talk to anyone. So it's very clear that she doesn't want to be approached or like she's in her zone or whatever. So I think everyone's pretty respectful of each other's space and what they want. And I think when you start talking to someone, if it's obvious they don't want to talk to you, then you kind of realize like that's not the way they deal with it. So but yeah, no one really tries to like get in each other's head, I don't think.
I think when you get to that level as well, there's a quite a big air of professionalism about it. It's not, there's no games being played. It's just like, well, we're going in, we're on a level playing field, hopefully, and we're going and getting stuck into the racing. I think that there was some, there's been some really, really interesting things you said there about your observations of those high level female 50 and 100 swimmers, having almost their own individual way, and you talking about, not using music and things like that. So some of the things I spoke about last week with our team was, everyone has their own individual process and way of doing it. And I think in this arena or this particular topic, it's very easy to copy what you see other people doing. And I talked a lot about, making it very specific to you and making sure that you connect with the process. So were the things that you've tried in the past that you realized really didn't work for you, and then you kind of tweaked it from there, or have you always had this understanding for yourself that this is actually how I feel it's best to go about it?
I guess I've tried like, I mean, I have tried listening to music, which is fine. Like I don't mind listening to music, but also the one, like I'll listen to music before I go into the call room, but I put my hat on like as soon as I'm in the call room, really, like my undercap. And I always found that like if I had headphones in, it like pressed into them, or if I had over the head headphones, it would like muffle it and stupid things like that I was just like, it's just easier if I just don't have headphones in, like just don't listen to music, because then I've got to worry about like taking them out from under the hat before I like dive in or whatever. And like I put my like goggles on and then my overcap sort of relatively early, and so I didn't want like my headphones in the way and stuff. So it's kind of stupid things like that you don't really realize bother you until you actually try it. So it's definitely like, I guess it is good to try different things and just see what works for you.
Absolutely. I mean, the reason I never used to use music, I just used to hate putting it in my pocket. The headphones just feel like they were going everywhere, and it was stressed me out.
Another thing, actually, I don't like having my phone with me, like in the call room, because I don't want to be like, I just don't want to come across anything that I'm like throws me off for some reason.
Yeah.
So obviously, if I'm listening to music, I need my phone in there. So that's kind of another reason I probably don't listen to music.
Oh, fair enough. But that's actually something that a couple of my athletes have said about that as well, that they just want to eliminate all potential distraction and not risk getting a random text message when they're in the ballroom at a world championships,
Because like obviously I like getting good luck messages and things off people, but I tend to not really respond to them until after I've raced, because I'd rather just know how I've done before I like respond.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to receive a message, even if it was a really nice message, because you just kind of, if it's like, oh, good luck at Worlds or something, and then you're like, oh my god, I'm at Worlds, like this is a big deal, like suddenly like might click and then just like throw you off or something. So
no, that makes complete sense. I mean, I've known a lot of swimmers who've said the same thing about social media in particular, and tweets and things, and not wanting to read them or respond because they're like, well, this may throw me off, or I may say something and I'm gonna get in my own head, or someone's gonna read it and go, oh yeah, okay, fair enough, I'm gonna come after you then.
Yeah.
So, that's all. That's really interesting, Anna. I just got to kind of just to wrap things up a little, because I'm just conscious that you've probably got things to do today as well. I just had a question from one of our transition squad athletes, Lucy, and essentially what she wants to kind of hear from you, I guess, is if things don't quite go your way, whether it's in a race or training, or how do you how does that come across in terms of how you feel when those things don't quite go your way, and also how do you then bounce back, or how have you bounced back in the past from those situations?
I think like in training, if I have a bad training session or something, like I would immediately talk to my coach, and he'd probably say something like, you've been working really hard this week, it's not surprising. And because sometimes it's easy to like overthink every single little thing that happens, like, but in reality, like our season is so long, one bad session isn't gonna necessarily impact how you swim at the end of the season. And so, and it was interesting for me, kind of, because every year I seem to have changed like coaches or like where I'm based or whatever. And so like my second year in the States, I found that I was comparing everything I was doing at each point in the year to the previous year, and like over analyzing it. And like some weeks I'd be like way off my times that I was the year before, but then when it came to the main competition, I was like way quicker. And so I think it's important to realize that every like process is different and every week's different, and even if one week you're not feeling great, it might be because actually you're going through an adaptation, and that's just showing that you've worked really hard. And when it comes to actually tapering and racing, you'll see the benefits of it. So I always just tried to like not overanalyze each individual session, because that's just a lot of like mental stress.
Absolutely. And is there any kind of situations or races that you can think of where maybe something hasn't quite gone to plan or the way you would want it to, and you've had to bounce back quite rapidly for the next thing?
Definitely. I mean, I've had like World University Games, for me, didn't really go very well. I think I swam really well in a relay, and then I thought like the rest of the week was going to go really well, and then I think I was just overthinking it. I like almost tried too hard, and so I think it's just important not to like put too much pressure on yourself. I think like obviously having done a really good race and then expecting the same the next day, and not doing as well as I hoped was quite difficult. But then obviously just kind of trying to put that to the back of your mind and focus on the next one. And then I guess at Worlds, obviously I swam really well in the heat of the 100 free, and then I did okay in the semi-final, but the time I'd done in the heat would have got me into the final. So I was quite disappointed about not making the final in the 100. But then I kind of had a couple of days to kind of reassess and just kind of focus on the 50. And I think it's important to just it's hard to forget about a bad race that's just happened, but if you've got another race coming up, then you just got to remember that it's a completely different race, and how well you've done in one race doesn't necessarily affect how you're going to do in the next race, because it's a completely different process. So and then I like swam really well in the 50, so I kind of bounced back quite well from that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think, just to add a little bit of extra context in there for some of my younger swimmers who maybe don't know as much about the higher end of the sport. When you look at worlds, you're looking at 7 to 8 days worth of competition as well. I think if you don't have a high level of emotional durability or emotional management, I guess it could be, like what you've just described. It would have been very easy for you to come in on that 50-day and had a bit of a struggle as well. So I think that there's a lot of work and a lot of effort, I think, goes into maintaining that emotion
Yeah.
during those kinds of meets, because it is tough. You
I
know.
think that's something I definitely learned from World University Games, because I don't think I like handled it all that well, and like I just like felt like really upset and I couldn't put it to the back of my mind. And obviously that's fine to be upset, but you have to use it as motivation for the next race rather than using all that emotional energy to like just like be upset, because that takes a lot out of you to like be that upset really. And
Mm,
then that's just tiring and exhausting, and then when you try and come back from that, it is quite hard.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, Anna. I think we'll leave it there because we've been talking for a little while, and I don't want to take up all of your time. But I really appreciate you taking the time today to have this little chat, and hopefully, some of the things you've said and talked about from your experience will resonate with some of my athletes. They're all age group and youth swimmers, so hopefully there's some lessons that they can learn there as well. So thank you very much for taking the time to talk.
Yeah, no problem. I've enjoyed it. I just hope that there's something in there that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm certain that there will be, and I hope that you enjoy what is left of the lockdown, and we
Yeah.
get back to some level of normality, and you can start getting training at your new training base in Loughborough.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm sure everyone's like aching to get back in the pool, but
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very much, Anna, and be safe.
thanks, Chris.